Hello and welcome to Stampscapes Live, or if you happen to be watching it on replay, welcome to the show. What we're going to be doing is a larger format photo stamping reflection card. Look how dramatic that looks already. These photos are free for download and printing on my Flickr account. Okay. So what I've done is I've printed this. This is a full page, 8.5 by 11 right here. And what I've done is I've folded it in half, okay? So you gotta just set your printer for whatever size you want as far as this photograph goes. I don't know, I think I set mine for like 11% or something like that of the original photo. I don't know, you can configure that, figure it out for yourself. And then this is another piece of silver cardstock for the reflective bottom. And look how dramatic that's going to look already. This is the type of paper I've used, and this is a full pack here. I have so many of these from numerous printers that I've purchased 15 to 20 years ago probably, because I don't know, you got those inkjet printers like Kodak or whatever, Epson, and then they would typically come with a pack of whatever, 11 by 17s or something like that, 4 by 6s. So I don't know. At some point in time, when digital photography came onto the scene, a lot of people just started going printer crazy, and they started printing out everything. But what I've found, I don't know, over the years is that a lot of people are just like me, and they have a lot of that type of photo paper sitting around. So I don't know. It's a good way to kind of dip into it and see what we can do with it in terms of our card creations here. So anyways, what I'm going to do now, I haven't tested this method on my own printing paper. Okay, I've been doing things on my Costco printed photo prints like this. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit of a different type of surface, I'm sure, because the inks on a home printer are going to be different, I'm assuming. So we're just going to have to see how this works on here, okay? I'm assuming that it should work okay as far as our Brilliance ink applications on this type of paper, but I'm not sure. I'm guessing that there's probably a little bit of a difference between one brand to the next. I don't know. So here we will find out. But I'm looking forward to finding out, because if it does work, we're going to be opening up a lot of different avenues for the usage of a lot of existing media that we already have, probably for a lot of us. All right, so this is going to be this little meta. I was going to do a different composition that would be, I don't know, a lot more straightforward, just boulder trees on this surface right here. I was thinking about doing the fire lookout, which I'll do on another scene, but I wanted to bring more color into this one. That would be a really fast and easy composition, though, which I enjoy doing more and more these days, because it's kind of challenging, to come up with something real fast. But and I like that type of offering on this channel here. But okay, so I just printed this out, and I can see I'm already kind of putting some of this ink back into solution, because that is like light blue there. But let's get a foundation of this white going on here. That white will dry, and then I think I can build up some additional white over the top of it. But see, there's a little bit of blue there, so I'm going to rotate this and not dip back into this with a blue tone, and thus kind of, I don't know, whatever, polluting this pad here, okay? Hello, Linda and Sandy, how are you? I hope you both had a good week and are looking forward to a Mother's Day weekend. All right, so I'm going to keep switching off here. Maybe I'll be able to use this cotton ball for something else later on, but again, I don't want to make this a cool blue pad, which I would be in danger of doing if I double dipped into it, okay? But it is kind of interesting. It really comes to show you just how water soluble, water based those printer inks are, right? I mean, I'm just barely tapping it down there a few times, and it's really, you know, for it to put that ink back into solution to create that whatever value of blue that fast, it's kind of interesting. And it also comes to show you just how surface-oriented printer inks are over the top of that emulsion. In other words, they're not getting soaked into, you know, the paper or anything like that. Everything is just very surface-oriented. So going on here with some water, you know, it's just instantly turning that back into solution and reading as, you know, whatever value of blue there. It's kind of interesting. It looks even more kind of that, like that cyan tone, just a really light version of it. So that's probably cyan and maybe a little bit of magenta and black in there. I'm not sure. Hello, Julie. 75 and sunny here. It's pretty nice. Was that your warmest day of the spring so far? And hello, Bonnie. Good to see you. Okay, I need to go up as far as this image right here. Okay, I'm going to use this snowy bank here. I'm not going to make it snowy, though. I'm just using it kind of as a platform for grass. Maybe I'll have like a patch of snow in there or something like that, though. But overall, you know, kind of green, springish. You know. All right, so here's the thing. I don't need to go up into these areas, of course, because that's already white. But if you want some colored pencils to stick to the area, in that area, then we need a little bit of a foundation of this, because this Brilliance White, which is a water-based pigment ink I didn't mention, if you just kind of logged on or haven't seen me do this before, the Brilliance is a different type of pigment ink. It's water-based as opposed to oil-based, okay? Oil-based surfaces or substances probably won't dry over the top of this emulsion. Again, because it, you know, it would have to dry completely by evaporation, and, you know, oils are one of those things that they're just really slow drying, so they need a little bit of, typically, they need some absorption in addition to evaporation. It's not so, though, on the printable vinyls for some reason. I don't know. I guess printable vinyls can be permeated with ink, I guess. I mean, it would have to be, I would think. Or there's just some kind of other kind of chemical reaction that's going on with it when you apply oil-based inks, because it will dry on that. Which, by the way, I want to print things like this out on printable vinyls sometimes. You know, we haven't printed, you know, through an inkjet printer anything. I haven't, okay? But that's what that paper is designed for. So if we can print like this type of thing on that kind of glittery vinyl, you'd have all that. Or just the holographic. Can you imagine that? Instead of white, it would be all those rainbow colors in there. Now I'm really thinking about that. I want to really try that out. That sounds like it could be pretty amazing. I'm telling you, if that thing works out, like now I'm thinking about, you got to get some of that printable vinyl, holographic vinyl. There's tons of it out there. So many different brands. You had 89? Wow. Yeah, that's shocking. Out here in Southern Cal, let's see, what was it today? It was, I think it was upper 60s. So really, pretty nice weather. Okay, I think that's about as far as I'll go with that. To my eye, I'm generally thinking that I should probably go a little bit more dense and opaque there. But when I stamp my images over the top of these backgrounds like that, it tends not to matter as much. I don't know. I'm thinking, I don't know. Every time I change, media a little bit. Like I've stamped on photos before, but like I said, this is a different printer and it's different inks, so I'm not quite sure. I tend to go, I don't know. I guess I'm being a little bit safer and utilizing a little bit more of that pigment ink on there. Hopefully for the other images that are going to be stamped over the top of it to adhere to it, and also for my colored pencils to work on there. So I don't know. I'm hoping it's the same. So far, so good. Between the printable vinyls and the different brands of holographics, it's worked out okay. All right, so my lower portion, I'm going to try to get some decent imagery in this area and layering. Okay, so on one of the recent lives, we did some more blocking out down here that I hadn't done in a little while. I've just been doing black images down here with a little bit of paint pens, so I think I want to develop this area a little bit more and to make it look like a little bit more like a I don't know, enclosed kind of pond or something of that sort. So, all right, I'm gonna take some rocks. You can use whatever rocks you have. There's some on here on this waterfall set that I think would look pretty good to flank this open area right in here. I don't want to close it off completely, but we'll utilize some of these. Okay, so my idea with this is to have this in the background, okay, and then we're going to put some cattails. Some small cattails really worked out great on my last scene. I'm going to put some of these right here. So those images are going to be reflecting down here, okay? So maybe from like right in here, I'm going to have some of these rocks. And I'm going to stamp out those ash trees up there because I want to do some more of the spring types of blossom types of effects on there. And then we'll have some more of those blossoms right down here in the foreground. I don't know, put a tree like something like this maybe. So that's the concept right there at least. All right, so that being said, here I can use these cotton balls again because I don't care if I get a little bit of blue in a tinge of color in here. Oh wait, but these are, let me see. It seemed like the first applications were a little bit bluer on this cotton ball, but like this one right here I've already used, and I don't know, there wasn't any blue on there at all, so I don't know why. Maybe it was just, I don't know, maybe it was just wetter on one side of the the photo right over here or something like that. It still kind of bled a bunch of blue into that white over there, but it didn't, come back on the cotton ball for some reason. All right, so anywhere in here, I'm just gonna generally lay down some tone where I think I might have a rock. If I don't use a rock in that area, then that'll wipe off, be it wet or dry, okay? So, okay, so that being said, the silver foil, not the same type of stamping surface as a photo paper, okay? This is like a non-porous, surface that like is not designed to have media applied to it. You can apply like a StazOn or something like that, and it'll adhere and dry on there, but most other types of inks, no. Okay, it'd be like trying to apply like water on like glass or something like that. If you ever have any issues with kind of media compatibility, and you just can't figure it out, email me. Someone was trying to do just dye-based inks on there, on silver, and they were saying it was just really sloppy. Okay, and I just told them, hey, you got, that's never going to work on there. This type of paper is just too too non-porous. It's just too slick. So you have to just adjust your media on there. As far as our crafting media, it's Brilliance inks and your stays on style of inks. Okay. The Brilliance will not adhere, but it'll dry on here. Okay. There's probably some other, your archival inks. I'm guessing any type of solvent ink should probably adhere and dry, but I'm not 100% sure because I've just used stays on, so I don't know. You can always test it out, test out what you have and see if it will work or not. All right, so that's where I'm thinking about my rocks right here. See how I've done it right here, 2 and 3, so it's not quite so symmetrical, from left to right. This area right here goes a little bit longer. This one's a little bit shorter. You know what I mean? So there's not so much, monotony going on. And when you only have like 2 sides like this, and it's a fairly short space, you don't want to have things too monotonous from one side to the other, unless you're going for something specifically, purposely kind of tight order, like a couple columns or trees right here, and you have like little object just dead center or something like that, If you're doing something like that on purpose, yeah. But generally, compositionally, we kind of break things up. I don't know, they mention doing things in odd numbers too. All right, so let me heat set this for a little bit. Hello, Verna. Good to see ya. And Ginger, both. I have 4x6s printed out at Costco, but the one I'm using today I just printed off on the home inkjet printer. But that's what this test is right here. I'm doing a reflection card, but it's really to see how this home inkjet printer, ink and paper, work in the techniques that I've been employing over the past, I don't know, recent weeks, maybe? I don't know. Maybe, I don't know, maybe months. But a lot recently. Okay, so that's not completely dry, but I don't want to dry it completely because foils tend to buckle and I want this nice and flat, okay? So let's go with the stays on, I think. Okay, the stays on worked really well for this surface the other day. Okay, so the print that I'm going to be using is like an 8.5 by 5.5. 4x6s and 3.5 by 5s are really inexpensive. When you're ordering them or having them commercially printed. But, when you start moving up into the larger sizes, the the unusual sizes, I don't know, it probably requires someone sitting there like a tech and, pressing the, the thing. So, yeah, those are probably a little bit more. So if I'm doing a large print, I'm probably printing it at home. And also, it's kind of an unconventional size too. It's like 4x6, 5x7, 8x10s. This one's a half page, so it's 8.5 by 5.5. So I just had to set my printer for that size. I had to adjust the percentage like specifically to get about that size. In the photos, it's not in that ratio, so I just trimmed off the, the parts that I didn't need. Okay, so that was the boulders with lichen done in the Stays on ink right over the top of the Brilliance ink so that we can see it. See, if I didn't do white down there, if I just printed that black, right, you can see how dark this is, this silver. I mean, we'd be able to see it if I put it in like glare like that, okay? But that's why we do that blocking out with, a lighter tone. In this case, just white, make it real simple so that we can see those objects in there. Okay, so let's see. I'm looking at this. I can do the boulders, or here's the leaves, rocks and leaves, I should say. Peel this off for now. Oh, actually, I'll take this boulders with lichen again. This block is a better size. I'll go like this. Does everyone have a home printer these days? I'm looking at another printer. This is my wife has one of those Eco Tank ones that it takes a lot of different inks. So I don't know what you call it. One of those large capacity reservoirs or something. I don't know, whatever it is called. But it's not great for photos. Like my print here, I can see a bunch of kind of these lines in it, okay? I mean, it's not really any big deal, but those traditional photo printers would probably give me a better result. I know, but some of those printers these days, it's always been about the consumables, though. They give you the printer like for nothing. It might even be losing money for those printer companies, and that still seems to be the case. Because I saw a Canon photo printer, and there was multiple types like that on that I was looking at. They're like $50. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe the printer inks are like, the consumables like that, the replacement inks, are like $40 a pack or something like that. And it's one of those things where if you run out of blue, cyan or something like that, the other ones don't work, which drives me nuts. So maybe I don't know, maybe that's the case. I'm going to be careful, though, if I do get a photo printer to not get one of those types that, have extremely expensive consumables, unless there's aftermarket brands, that you can get, which often there are, at least with toner cartridges. I'm not sure about inkjet, but probably. Okay, so Rocks and Leaves, this is the small version. You can use the larger version. The smaller version comes in this waterfalls set like that, okay? Now, all of that extra white that goes out to the side around these things, this one right here, there's not too much. You can just wipe that off, so I'll wipe it off after the Stays on ink dries, okay? All right, so this is roughly what we're looking at right here in the reflection area, just in terms of the structure of this lower area. Don't those look really three-dimensional like that? This is a pretty large card. A lot of times I don't like going this high with a reflection card. This is 5.5 like that. I'm doing it just because I'm lazy. This is 8.5 by 11. But see, the thing that I try to obscure is this line right here where this part is reflecting down here. So usually we can get rid of that by flanking our areas with, a couple trees or something like that. So I'll do that in this case here. But look how dramatic that looks. I really like this new photo that I think I just took it last week. I think it was last Tuesday or something like that. We had this kind of real late rainstorm that came through, and the next day there was a bunch of clouds outside that. When I was driving home, I thought, okay, I should pull out the camera and get those photos because, we don't have like a really good crisp cumulus cloud day too often. Hello, good morning, Kathy. Grab a cup of coffee and have some fun with this. The rest of you, maybe not, unless it's decaf, if it'll keep you up at night. All right, let's see here. All right, now see this area right here, I really need to wipe off right here. I'm going to put in some other things in here though, but let's stamp out a couple of these top area objects. I'm going to stick with the stays on up here, I think. Okay. This area right in here, okay, if you just joined in, I added a big slathering of the Brilliance white, Moonlight white pigment ink. And we're just going to stamp over it with our Snowy Bank here, okay. It's not going to be snowy though, it's going to be more of like a spring-like type of situation, I think. If this, stamps out okay, if it works out okay. Sometimes I'm a little skeptical if, that my colored pencils are going to stick to this type of, I don't know, I guess with everything that I've tried, but it has so far, so it's been okay. Okay, now what happened there is some of that white was lifted off, so not a real super dark impression because again, that white pigment ink is just sitting laying on the surface of this emulsion right there, okay? So some of it lifted off, so it's not like a super dark black impression. If I want the blackest impression, probably, since I'm stamping it on the Brilliance, okay, if it stamp it stays on just directly onto this paper where, it'd be nice and black, but remember, we're stamping it. We're not really stamping photo paper here. I'm stamping, with this ink right here, I'm stamping white Brilliance ink. And that's the same thing with the colored pencils. When I start coloring in here, I'm not coloring photo paper, I'm coloring the Brilliance ink that's underneath that. All right. Or the Brilliance ink that's on top of it, not underneath it. Underneath the impression, or underneath the colored pencils. All right, so that is that. I'm thinking about this figure right here. So I was thinking about this figure. It'd go like this. Right here, this rider. I'm going to put them right in that beam of light like that. It's not great compositionally because she's like right dead center. I guess I could put her a little bit like that and it'd be fine. Okay, so she's going right there. I'm going to put these trees, we'll figure out a location for these trees. And these trees will be reflected down in the water area, hopefully kind of in a cool way. So it'll be like that, and maybe a couple of the larger ones like this. So let's see how this one goes. All right, Verna loves her Canon printer for photos, but ink gets expensive. Okay, so you're always replacing with Canon brand inks. Is your printer, are all the ink cartridge, is it all in one cartridge, or are all the inks separate from one another, the 4 inks? That's what I want to know. Hello, Froggy Fresh. Hello, Travel Dreamer. Snowy Bank turned springtime, that's it. All right, someone just placed an order for, I don't know, some stamps about a week ago or something like that. And there's a video on the channel where it's turning, specifically just stamping out a bunch of snowy terrain, but, you know, just using it for the structure. I think it was Snowy Brook, and that was turned into like just a springtime, you know, type of brook, you know, flanked with a lot of wildflowers. But I sent them that card. All right. All right, now see this right up here? That's darker, and this is lighter right here. And that's because some of that ink was lifted right off the surface like that. All right? See how that kind of works in there with your surface-oriented media, which everything is when it comes to kind of the emulsion-coated photo papers. That emulsion on top of that, I don't know, is photo paper paper? It almost feels more like vinyl, you know, in some ways. You know, I don't know. Yeah, I think about it, but yeah, everything sits on the surface of this. Even alcohol inks too are very surface oriented with photo paper. All right. Well, that already looks kind of cool. I love stamping those trees out. Let's take a look here and see what those are looking like there. You can't see them too much. The one right here will probably play a bigger role in terms of the reflection down here. You can see it a little bit, but see my rocks here are kind of breaking up the form of those trees in there, but still looks pretty cool. Okay, so the Stays on inks is working fine on here. You can use, I would imagine you can use dye-based inks. If you do a dye-based black on here, remember the dye-based black is going to be a water-based ink, and it, you know, the photo paper works great. Now don't mistake photo paper with glossy, this is glossy photo paper. You can use a matte or something like that too, but remember, just, if someone's watching on here that doesn't know the difference between glossy photo paper and glossy cardstock, this one has an emulsion coating, and the cardstock has a clay coating on there. They can look very, very similar, you know, and feel similar, but they take certain types of inks very differently from one another, okay? So you just want to use certain types of techniques, you know, with, you know, certain surfaces, you know. Some can cross over, and some can't, okay? So just keep that in mind, and just use your compatible media. And you say, well, hey, you know, you don't know what, you know, exactly will work with what. Just do some tests and see if things can dry or not on tops of your surfaces. You know, have a little test thing. You don't have to do a whole scene out, but just test it on a little piece of scrap and see if, you know, your inks dry or adhere, what value they stamp out in. Are they stamping out nice and dark? Are they stamping out lighter because the ink doesn't transfer? You also have to do things like, it's not so complicated, you know, it takes like 10 seconds or something like that to make a print, but sometimes, like with my Stays on, if I hold this down for too long and I lift up, sometimes with certain types of surfaces, that ink, it lifted right off back onto this because it dried in the time that I was holding it down, and sometimes I hold it down too long, so I need to, you know, keep that in mind every time that I use Stays on, because with other types of inks, I'm usually waiting for that transfer to take place through absorption into a lot of different types of surfaces like cardstock. Okay. All right. So I'm trying to think if I want any more in here. If I wasn't putting her in here, I'd put another tree like behind here. This little slope right here, like in the background there, which I think would be really cool. But if I do that, like right here, I don't want to have all those branches like right here, and that's messing up kind of the silhouette of her form, you know. So I'm going to leave that out of there, I guess. And here's the thing too with with reflection cards. Sometimes it's better just keep things kind of, you know, simple up in this top section, which I don't know, makes it for an easier stamping project for us if you don't add quite as much, you know. Sometimes when I have too many things going up here, it's a little bit too cluttered in the reflection. It's hard to read things. Okay, so I think that's about right. I'm going to be adding other things, but it's going to be a lot more like color. But as far as imagery goes, I'll keep it pretty simple. All right. Separate ink tanks, 5 of them. What are the 5? I know 4. You got cyan, magenta, yellow, black. Is there like like 2 black tanks or something like that because it's the most used or something? All right. Where did my cotton balls go? Oh, it's right here. I hung up my cotton balls right next to my head here, and I can't. Here they are, right? I don't know if you can see these right here. Okay, so I'm just using a new cotton ball, and this will just go in here like this, and you can see it works just like a little eraser. This ink comes off very easy. I'm talking about the Brilliance ink that's now dry on here. It's like that. I'm kind of rotating my cotton ball so I'm not like smearing, you know, a bunch of, you know, ink on here around. So just kind of like that. And look how easy that comes off of this. That being said, you want to, you know, spray seal this so it doesn't come off unless you want to just, I guess if you don't spray seal it, if you're sending it to another stamper, you just say, don't touch this. Just, you know, don't touch the silver, the reflection area, and, you know, you'll be fine. And then mail it with a little piece of paper, you know, in transit. But see, like that, I mean, it's reasonably clean. Like that, you know, I mean, you can get really close if you want to. But that little, you know, addition right there doesn't bother me because I usually make things a little bit more misty looking anyway. Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to add in some extra texturing in here while we're doing our impressions. Well, maybe we'll get all our impressions out of the way first. Okay. Tiny rocks. Okay, I'm going to have some of these in this lower section here. What this does is they kind of describe the depth of the water, right? You know, if you can see, I mean, these rocks could be above water or they could be sticking out of water. I don't know what they represent here. Either one, maybe both. Okay. But they also kind of work as a little bit of a framing tool. I'll put a few more around here. I used to add in some black Brilliance ink around the edge, which I don't know, I might do, but I think this texturing might work better than toning in, you know, with additional ink that, you know, that would be prone to, you know, rubbing off in this area without being spray sealed. So I don't know, I'm probably going a little bit more stays on dominant on this surface these days than originally. Okay, so this is the Tiny Rock Small, just for a little textural variation. And I'm going to put this, remember this is going to be the far shore for this pond, so I'm putting those rocks. See, we have these ones on the near shore, so I'm going to do that same type of thing. But I won't just do it straight across. I'm going to kind of do it like this, and I'll bend it down a little bit. Okay, so we get this kind of rounded shape going, which is kind of a nice compositional element. And you can go for multiple impressions so you get different values of this stamp. It's not just black. All right, I can see right now. I don't think you can even see this because of the glare. I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done here. But you can see my kind of technique right here. It's a little bit darker on the outside, and then I hit it with the lighter version on the interior right here. And I'll also put some around my other rocks here just to carry that form out a little bit. Or, I don't know, the rock texture, I guess. All right, so this is what this looks like right here. Can you see that right there? It's kind of hard to show with glare in there, but there we go, a little bit. So you see this right here, right there, and I'll show you why we do that here. So you get a lot of these rocks from the snowy bank reflecting down here as well, but see this right here? How that looks right here coming out towards the snow like that. Looks a little bit more three-dimensional. Boy, that sure looks three-dimensional to me. I guess it is. I mean, it's coming out at us, but like again, I don't know. It always dazzles me with its you know, in its simplicity. All right. I was thinking about going with some of these branches again. Maybe I should have. I was thinking like bare branch or something like that would be good. I have these just branchy trees, you know, to use down here. Maybe I'll just use my leaves. Just because it's like sitting right next to me. I should have grabbed a bare branch. Hanging branch would be good. I'll do both if I find it. Okay, I'm just doing this in black. These are the leaves. That's literally the name of the stamp. In scenic stamping, as you can see, quite often you do not use, you know, you could, but you don't have to use the whole stamp. You know, you just use certain portions for what you want. Okay, so I did left and right kind of bottom corners. I came across here a little bit, but just to frame off the bottom of the composition. Let me get my bearings here and see what that's going to look like. In reflection cards, you kind of have to take a look, you know, every now and then, because, you know, that while these are like separate, you know, pieces of the card, they're working in conjunction with one another. So, let's see. All right. I'm looking right here. You know, the edge of the pond type of thing. And I'm trying to envision what these cattails would look like. I haven't used my cattails in a while. I was looking for my reeds the other day, but I thought those cattails look really good. Just a little bit of a cluster here, right at the base left and right area. Oh, that came out really light. Okay, my StazOn pad's dry, I think. When I first started using StazOn and Brilliance black ink, I was shocked at the number of times I had to re-ink You know, just after like a few usages, especially with the Brilliance Black, because it's a real thick ink, you know, pigment ink, and I was using quite a lot of it. There's a re-inking every, like, I don't know, every week, where my dye-based black, you know, I use that a lot. I might re-ink that every, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if it was every 3 weeks or something like that. Now, that being said, I don't like my dye-based black inks to be too wet and juicy because it fills in the details of the stamps. You know, it puddles up in there. So I kind of want a little bit of a medium, you know, medium, maybe slightly over medium dampness with the, you know, with my dye-based inks. So, all right, so this right here. This is our little transition zone into water. And then, see how that reflects right at the base down here? Okay. Right on the water's edge, like that. So, I think that should do it. Okay, now see my leaf stamp right here, kind of, it obscured a little bit some of that reflective area where it comes down like this. So I have my leaves kind of filling in right there, you know, to get rid of that, you know, that shard of reflective area that isn't filled in by the sky like this. I guess you could do a reflection card where you have this part come out like flared like that, but that would look kind of silly, I think. People would wonder, what the heck? But it would be specific to a reflection card. All right, so let's see here. All right. This lower section here, I'm kind of leaning towards just leaving it. I was thinking about adding in some tone. Let's go ahead and do that. That's going to take, it takes like 10 seconds here. All right, so I'm going to use my Brilliance Black to tone this in a little bit, just so it isn't so, you know, stark white like that. If I could find it, where's my Memento Black here? Oh, here we go. My water bottle on top of it. Oh, and there's my other tack and peel cover. All right, so we're just going to model these forms a little bit, okay? Now, you know, I want it to be a little bit light and I want it to be varied, okay? So I'm not going to tone them all out, okay? So see that right there? Just a few little taps like that, but see how more modeled it looks than like that one up there, this one over here. Little taps like this, just to at the base of the rock. And you can put a little bit in, you know, in the shadows here too. The Brilliance ink, again, it's a water-based pigment ink and will dry. Like this white, you know, is already dry. It's been dry for a while on there, but you'll just need to adhere it to the surface with a sealant. Okay. It's not so fragile that, you know, with just opening the card or something like that, it's going to come off. But, you know, if you touch it in there, you know, and give it a little wipe or something like that, it will wipe off. Which makes it, you know, one of the most user-friendly surfaces, because if you stamp something, or mediums out there, if you stamp something out in Brilliance over the top of it or white, and you don't like it, you can just wipe it right off. And Linda's on here, Linda B. She says, hey, if you stamp out something that stays on top of this silver cardstock, if you don't like it, then just, it'll wipe off with stays on cleaner. Yeah, isn't that cool? When you can actually wipe something off of a card that you've applied media to. Doesn't happen too many, with too much media out here in stamping. Okay, so that is that. Let's go with the figure on here. I really like leaving these figures. Little subject matter, deer, people, things like that. To to the end, but because of all the colored pencil, touches I'm going to add down here, I want to have her down there. I'm going to be applying greens and stuff like that. I think she'll adhere better on this surface than over the top of colored pencil, although you can add it in later. I just think we'll probably get a better impression by doing it right now. Let's see. Yeah, let's go with that. I was thinking about, I have a small version of this too, but let's go a little bit bolder here. All right, so I'm looking for that beam of light where it would travel to. And hopefully I didn't wait too long. Although I don't know. I just re-inked that stays on, so it should be fine. Yeah, it stays on, it can dry really fast. If I was out in some kind of real arid area, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, and whatever, New Mexico, I think sometimes, stamping stays on would be a real kind of, I mean, you'd compensate for it, but, you ink it up and, I don't know, out there, sometimes the things like that, they dry like 3 times as fast. And I found that out at a convention. Things weren't drying twice as fast. They were drying 3-4 times as fast. I was doing some things with VersaFine Clair on top of glossy cardstock, I think it was. It might have been a semi-gloss, But that took overnight for me to dry usually. But I'd be doing it and it was dry after a couple hours. I'd be doing stuff at the demo table, and it was dry. Now the convention center was blasting air conditioning the whole day, where everyone was going out to their cars and getting their jackets. It was so cold. So that kind of dried things out in there too. But I was just shocked at really how fast everything was drying up. All right, so here comes some colored pencils here. All right. Oh, let's take a look at this and see how she's going to look. Yeah, it looks really good, having that focal point in there. The things that are lower on the horizon like that, or not the horizon, but the right at the fold, naturally reflects stronger. The higher you get up here, the more distorted it gets because it's more, distance in between, the object and the reflection of it. So I think it adds to the look though, but she's fairly low, so she really stands out quite a bit. All right, so colored pencil work. Let's keep this pretty simple. I don't know, I might go with more than these 2 tones, but let's see what I can get with just 2 values of green like this. Hello, Jeannie. Yeah, you got that. Yeah, Froggy Fresh. I was thinking, I don't know, you had a picture of that Saint Bernard doing something. I was thinking, that Saint Bernard, I'd rather be in your lap. I'm talking about on Facebook. For those that don't know. Hey, Froggy Fresh, are you in there's got to be a Saint Bernard's, is there a Saint Bernard's Facebook group? Okay, now where I'm adding this green, I'm kind of adding it in, there's shaded areas of this stamp right here, okay? Now, you don't have to, it's not too complicated. Anything that's black, is kind of a shaded area. So I'm kind of concentrating this darker green like that, okay? But it's also, with this darker green, I'm looking for objects like this. So here's this rider right here. And I already have some shadow underneath the objects on the stamp itself. But see, I'm just kind of filling in underneath there. So, okay, now this tree is bare tree, but I'm going to foliate it, okay? So I'm adding some, don't go super dark, kind of go a little bit at a time like this. But see, I'm adding some darker shadows underneath my tree like that where it's casting some shadows. So here's this tree right here. And I'm just going with a kind of a light application of this pencil right now. Okay, you can always add more. But you can't really, you know, remove this colored pencil at least very conveniently from the Brilliance white ink. Now we can add another layer of Brilliance over the top of it, probably. It's not going to adhere to the wax of the pencil as much as it does the, you know, the emulsion of the paper, okay? But you can do that. But what I'm getting at right here is just, you know, kind of apply your media nice and kind of, I don't know, whatever, gradually. So this pencil right here can go very dark like that, but I'm using it like this, okay? And then sometimes I start going a little bit darker, but I'm kind of bringing it all into kind of focus at the same time. So you go with here's like a, let's say, 10%, 20% version of this green over the whole thing in areas, kind of developing your lighting scheme too a little bit. Where there's a lighter area up here, it's just going to be a lighter area just in general. Now, if you're just starting off and you're kind of like really confused about lighting schemes and things like that, you can get away with lighting schemes very easily and it'll look fine just if you oscillate things. So look at this right here. This is only a little bit darker right here, but then see it's a little bit lighter. This is a little bit darker here. Lighter, dark. I don't know, I don't have dark up here yet, but here I'll add it so you can see. Now when I say darker, you know, dark, it doesn't have to be dark, you know, super dark. It's just darker. So see, this is a varied terrain now. So that's how you color for lighting. So normally if someone sees, okay, this is going to be a grassy area, their you know, inclination is just to color in everything, whatever color, grass green. Okay, they'll look at their pencil and they'll say grass green and color the whole thing in. Okay, which you can do, okay, too. But if you want it a little bit more varied and to represent lighting hitting these areas, then you just don't color everything completely uniformly, okay? All right, now here's a lighter green right here. And let's add that. See, like here, the darker areas, and I'm coming up here into the lighter area like that, okay? So we've now transitioned it from kind of a lighter green to a darker green. I'm going into that darker green area, okay? But I'm just moving it a little bit more up into that lighter area like that, okay? Now, don't worry, it's not precarious or something like that. It's like, I'm coming up here, and I just toned that whole area in, you know what I mean? I was going to leave it, like, light, you know, or something like that. You know, if some area gets too dark for you using some existing thing, then you just go a little bit darker here, like this, right? Now, that area seems lighter again by contrast, so you can do stuff like that. Where people lose their light is in the darker tones, you know, that always happens with all of us, you know. It's like we get toning in, we have our nice kind of lighting scheme going on, and then it's like, you know, we get excited and we just start adding on, and, you know, we're not kind of like looking and analyzing as much, you know, okay, this is going to be darker, this is going to be lighter, and it, you know, it gets darker with these darker tones because we get real comfortable about the addition of media and we start going faster and faster. But bottom line, you just hold it out at arm's distance and see what it's going to look like as you're working on it, so you can see. Okay, so you can see that grassy area is now reflecting in the lower section. Sometimes it looks different if you're doing a reflection card too, because you have this light reflecting back up in here. All right, so that is some of the greens, and what I've mentioned in other videos is that I like a lot of more of a earthy looking grass area too. So I add in some browns into my grassy areas, and it just, I think it makes the greens look a lot richer as a result. Okay, so Here's a little bit of beige. This one's called sand. It's like a yellowy tone. All right, here's, I don't know. I just grabbed a bunch of I mean, there might be other colors that are better, but I don't want to grab out, 10 different colors. Here's burnt ochre. Let's try that in here. Just grab a bunch of brown tones, you know what I mean? Out of your colored pencils, lay them out, light, dark, just apply a light version of it and see if you like it. And if you like it and you want to add more, then add more. But anytime you're switching to a new color, just use a very light version of it if you're not certain about it, if you want to use it or not, how much you want to use it. Just apply a light version. And it'll always be a nice user-friendly type of process for you. All right, so here's some black. Okay. Now this is where I'll develop my shadows a little bit more. Now sometimes it's a little bit hard to do this. I'm not saying in colored pencils in general. I'm talking about on top of Brilliance ink, on top of, like a glossy cardstock or something like that, or a printable vinyl. Because this gets built up with a lot of that waxy, surface from all these other colors that came before us. So sometimes with this, even if I do want to go a little bit darker, it's not transferring on here because I'm just putting wax like on top of wax. So, I don't know, maybe that's a good thing, so I can't get too dark with this one. I don't know. It kind of slows the process of transferring that ink, the more you go. I don't know, maybe it is a good thing. It keeps us from over applying probably a little bit. All right, there's this little kind of creaky area right here. I'm going to introduce some blues back into that area. We'll go with a little bit darker blue and a lighter blue. Just right along the creek edge, I'll go with a little bit of a darker blue. I can't see anything at all with that. So you can see I just go, switch tones like that. As I'm doing this right here, as when I was applying a lot of that white down here with the cotton ball, there's a lot of this cotton fiber down here. So now when I'm going in here with some of these colored pencils, it's like I'm removing some of that fiber, I notice. Okay. I mean, it's not all soft and like furry down here or anything like that, but it's just kind of matted onto that surface where I'm doing this and it's coming off. So, okay, so, that being said, just kind of expect that going into it. You might be coming across some fur balls. It's all part of the fun. All right, I think that's okay right there. Let's see, like that. See, I think this card like this looks pretty cool, right? But, there's this little area down here with all black impressions, a little bit of white. Even if it didn't have the white, I think this would look really dramatic like this. But look how much more dramatic this looks like that with that kind of lower section down there like that. I don't know. I think it's just such a small kind of thing to do, It's kind of a minimal stamping down there. But really dramatic. I don't know, whatever addition, it's a dramatic addition to what's going on in this upper area here. Okay, let me go a little bit darker right here. If I can. Okay, let's see. Glad you like the reflection cards, Travel Dream. I really encourage it. Okay, so from the responses I've had, in terms of how other people's reflection cards have been received by the recipients of their cards, they say, it was like really, really positive. So highly recommended, to give a shot to them if you haven't already. All right, so I've shaken up my pens. Let me give these another shake right here. The 3mm acrylic paint pens, okay? Posca. Actually, I don't know any other brands that are like main brands out there. Posca, right? These ones are emo keys. Just a real cheap 24 pack. They say 2 to 3mm, but these ones are all 3mm, really. All right. This looks really dramatic as is, and I really want to do just a winter one, you know, where I put a little bit of snow kind of, you know, in between, you know, some of these branches on here, but it does look really bare in here right now. This looks like California after like a wildfire, so someone like walking through like burnt, probably still alive trees, you know, but it is kind of depressing when you kind of go through an area like that, so. Not that this is supposed to be California, not with those ash trees, but I'm just saying, like a skeletal area. There's been so many wildflowers of late, wildfires. So again, yeah, I'm just kind of foliating this tree, and I'm doing it with dark green right now. We'll come back into it with a lighter green, and we'll hit it with some blossoms in here. I'm kind of doing early spring here, you know, where the trees aren't so full yet. You know, it's like the initial kind of growth, spring growth. Cluster your little foliage a little bit. Hello, Caroline. Glad you like those reflection cards, Caroline. You know, by adding that lower section on the card, no, I don't know, maybe people are getting this comment all the time too. Like, you know, someone does like I don't know, like a shaker card or something like that. I don't know. I haven't done one of those before, but like, I don't know if those people are getting a bunch of comments like, "Hey, I would never be able to do that," you know. Card. Now, they might be talking about other things, but they're generally talking about the reflective type of area. And this is like one, I don't know, whatever, adding on like this section down here. I would think it's like 1/20th of the complexity. Not that shaker cards are complex or anything like that, but there's just, you know, there's a lot more that goes into that than just adding on, you know, a silver lower portion with, you know, a few stays on ink impressions on it in black. And a lot of people have, you know, like silver and gold cardstock in their, I don't know, whatever, in their supplies I've found. You know, when I first started doing these types of cards, people say, hey, you know, I got that, I should try it out, you know. Okay, do you see that green in there? Look at that green in there. Just with that one pen so far. Even one pen, I think, would be pretty cool like that. Look how alive that looks now with that green in there. So when I'm looking at this type of thing, I'm kind of thinking in my head of quick scene, quick card applications for this scene right here. So I think if I was doing a quick card, you know, quick cards I want to have done in like 20, 25 minutes or something like this. I think we could do a quarter page like this. You know, 2 tones of green in the meadow area. Now, I wouldn't have had to add so much like white down here on this base, but I was going, I was covering up a lot of really dark blue down here in some of these areas, so I put in a pretty thick slathering of it, but I think we can do this card, a quarter-page version of it, maybe, 2 tones of it, up with the paint pens or something like that, and just be done with it. I'm going to add the pinks up there for the blossoms and things like that, and I'm going to add, some of it, some leaves and petals down on my meadow like that, and in the water, floating in the water. So that probably takes up an extra, I don't know, whatever, 10 minutes probably. Some mist in here, but a quick card version of that I think could be had for, completed in, I don't know, like 25 minutes maybe. I don't know, maybe 30. If you have your paper already cut, that is. I think this photo of there with that lens flare in there will be a good photo to use going forward. I really like that flare that I got. Just aiming the camera just directly like up at the sun or those clouds there. Back in days of using film, that would have been really hard to get like that, because the film, the exposure would have developed kind of funky. So the rest of everything would have been like, like way super, super dark. But these I just took on my, my phone. All right, so that is the green right there, okay. The trees I think look a little bit more dimensional, with some lighter greens in there, like so. Maybe I'll add a few more of these light ones, like next to, that sun, like that. Okay, and let's go to, I'm trying to decide if I should go to white now or pink. Let's go to the white. Yeah, Verna, any of your snowy terrain types of things, just color it with green and you're set, any of them, snowy bank, snowy brook, all of those. I don't think I've used the snowy banks before, like as like dirt though, like just all brown. But I've often used them for grassy terrains. That's just like with the water, the water scenario, the water scenes. Just don't do, the reflections and, add in grass or whatever you want, and all the water side types of things are now just, whatever rocks and trees or something like that, within, a meadow or wherever you want it to be. All right, so see that white up there? It's kind of bringing the thing alive, right? Bringing it to life. So it's like we're changing seasons, right in front of our eyes, or it's changing seasons right in front of our eyes. So you can see the difference between this one and this one over here. Maybe I'll do a little tweak here. Maybe I'll add in these larger, closer trees, the 3mm white, and maybe in the background tree I'll use some of the 0.7 extra fine paint pen, because the white really stands out a lot, by contrast. So its influence is greater. So let me see if I can get this 0.7 flowing really well on here. Yeah, just fine. It's easy to go overboard, and that's here. Let's use some of this smaller one too. In the closer trees. All right. Okay. Look at those trees. The trees look, you know, more interesting down in those reflected areas now, I think, in some ways. Okay, now see this right here? This tree right here? See this area right in here? That doesn't look quite as interesting a reflection to me. So I'm going to add more white right here to hopefully that will reflect down into that little area right there. Okay. It's just one of those little minor tweaks, you know, that that we probably wouldn't do, but since it's, you know, it's kind of about that reflected area is such a kind of an attention getter, you know, maybe add it in. So let's see if that shows up a little bit more. It's a little bit more like there. See, it's a little bit more varied right there. I guess it's because that, you know, that white right there is in that dark blue area right there or something like that. It's also higher up on the composition, so that reflecting down there isn't quite as mirrored or reflective, you know what I mean? See, it starts to go a little bit blurry down here, which is kind of cool because it adds to that sense of depth, but if you want something to stand out a little bit more. All right, so yeah, we're glad your doggy did well at the show and had a great time. You said it had a great time, right? Our crabapple tree is in blossom right now, all white. I was thinking about just leaving this white right here, you know, as I was looking at this. I thought, let's bring a little bit of pink into there. Because I think that looks really good just with the white like that. But yeah, let's do this right here. I'll be kind of minimal with it. The reason why I'm doing this too is because I thought it would be cool. I don't know, can you see that little tinge of pink? So I'm kind of not putting it in there too in abundance. Okay. But do you see that slight change of hue like that? But the reason why I'm doing that too is because I think those pink blossoms will look cool floating in the water down here. Like white and pink little blossoms, you know, that fell off the tree. So it's just, I don't know, just adding that little splash of kind of a different color. Okay, so that's what that looks like that. Let's just go with one pink like that. I think that's enough. I have this, you know, lighter value, duller pink too. Okay, but that pink to me stands out a little bit, you know, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to overlap some of those little pink dots, okay? Not all of them, but just some of them with a little bit of a white over the top of it. All right, and let's see here. All right, I don't want to use this one yet. I want to build up to it, so let me put in some highlights down in that grassy meadow area using kind of the smaller paint pen. Yeah, I think just smaller paint pen for that lower section. I'll put a couple petals down here, but I don't want it to get like just vibrating with like too much texture in here everywhere. So I can't even see that one. Okay, that's like the same value as the background, so it doesn't stand out. I might have to, I think we're gonna have to move all the way. Well, here's a lighter, kind of a beige. Let's use this one right here. So see that, I start off darker, in something that's not going to show up as much. And I just get, with whatever media, it gets a little bit more and more pronounced. But I have, like these pens here, that green barely, it didn't stand out as much. And then you just kind of get comfortable with that application. And then I just went lighter and lighter. The pink really stands out. The white really stands out. So it's like it's almost like per card, you get a little bit of practice time in, and get used to the application of some media. All right, that's like with the colored pencils too. I just, add it down there lightly, and then I, add it thicker and thicker, or in a more saturated version, so they got darker and darker and darker. All right. Okay. So that was some of this. It's kind of like a, I don't know, sand color, beige, warm tone. Here's white. Now, see these little areas in here? There's these little rocks here and there within that design. I know you can't see it. I can't zoom in too much farther. This is going to go like out of focus on me. But I'm going to kind of highlight some of the tops of these rocks to make them look a little bit more dimensional. I mean, I can, add some of this in the grassy areas too, but just on tops of some of these forms that got kind of colored in, I'm just kind of bringing them back out. You don't want to do it on every single one, but kind of here and there, it just makes the whole terrain look a little bit more. Okay, I got some of that colored pencil up into my pen here, so it clogged. So just kind of get it flowing again like that. There we go. Oh, it's the Brilliance ink too that's down there. It'll go up into your pen sometimes, so you just kind of scribble it out a little bit. Try to get it right here. There's a lot of exposed Brilliance ink, so it's kind of hard to get a good application of this paint there. All right, let me see how that is looking. All right, can you see that? I don't know if you can see it, those little highlights right there up on top of that little grassy, I don't know, not a ridge, but I don't know, what, a mound? I don't know, whatever like that. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good like that. Let's add a few little kind of bright flowers in this meadow. Let's go with some orange here. All right. And again, I'm going to go small here, just so I don't have that same texture down in this lower section, but I'll just kind of group these little orange flowers in little clusters like this. Again, I don't want it to compete, too much with the trees, so I won't add it you know, too crazy here. All right, so we'll go with that. I don't know if you can tell, it's kind of orange, a little bit orangey and warmed up a little bit. Let's see. Hello, Bugs. Glad you like it, Bugs. When I post this up in like Stamp Junkies or something like that, I try to always point out this is, photo stamping or something like that. But some people say, hey, that looks like a, that sky looks like a photo. All right. So here we go. I love doing this lower portion with the like the leaves and the water type of idea. So let's take and get our bearings here. Okay, so I'll add it like right around in this section right here. So I think I can go up like this far. I don't want to go up here, around the writer too much at least. Something like down in here. Hopefully you're able to see this right here. But okay, so I'll add. Let's go with white and pink for those little blossoms in the water type of idea. These little currents and little ponds. I'm not talking about like a stream, but how they tend to kind of cluster together a lot of times. So that's what I'm going to do right in here. Something like that. All right. It looks kind of weird, I know, when you do that, because it really stands up against this background. But I think it really looks good in context. Let's go with that. Let's go with a little bit of a smaller one up here, maybe. And then we can push depth a little bit in this front section, even though the blossoms are made with the larger, dot up in the trees, which are more distant than this area, but let's just see what this looks like here. I'll put some of these smaller ones down here too. And here's white. Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about this too. Down there, here in these rocks, if you want to add some highlighting to some of these rocks, you can do that. It's a little bit tricky because, I'm adding it right over the top of that brilliance ink, which isn't exactly affixed. It's not affixed to the surface, but if you get your pen flowing pretty good, you can see it applies pretty good over the top of this. It'll apply on top of that, that stays on no problem, but what I'm trying to do is get some of those like lighter areas on the rocks though. Like that. That looks pretty good. And sometimes it can make it look a little bit more dimensional this way too. Clogging. Okay, here we go. Thank goodness for good media these days, I don't think I could. I don't think I could do this with a gel pen. Maybe as easy. Maybe it could be done. But that's what I was using for years. Was the gel pen. I used paint pens early on, but then I switched to gel pens. Just because the paint pens of old while pretty good, weren't quite as good as like the newer ones. I think I was using the Marvy one was an oil-based one too. Okay, so you can see what that looks like. It looks really weird, but like I said, it's not in context. So get this down like this, and get this area reflecting down there like that, and you can see all those little leaves kind of floating on the surface of the water. See how they look against, that, the reflection of the tree. That's the same color. So I think people would make that connection between those leaves like that, or the blossoms, and, these little things floating in the water like that. But see, I think those make it gives the pond a little bit more, I don't know, visual depth, I guess, in there like that. All right, and let's see. I think I'm going to do something else too. I'm looking at these cattails right here. Okay, if I had my larger cattails, I'd use them. I'm just going to use my reeds right here. I'm going to put some of these reeds down here in the foreground, because it's like the opposite side of the little pond there. Hello, Mary! Yeah. Using that photo, I'm telling you, Mary, that sure gives us a big head start to whatever, scene creation or whatever. Now, stamping on photograph, we're set, we're stuck with the photo. It's not going to be as, malleable a surface as a white piece of paper where, we can do anything, but it sure is fun. I've done photo stamping too, where you just stamp on a photograph and you just leave it like that. But that to me was never terribly dynamic. So I like adding in things like shading and coloring on tops of the photos, okay? But this whole thing with the Brilliance ink and being able to add this whole varied area down here with colored pencils to boot, like that, which are, you can really manipulate what you want with colored pencils. Or, you can model things like that. That, to me, was the killer application, I think, of photo stamping. That's the key right there for me, to make it something where it's like a, you know what I mean? It's not just like a novelty surface, because when we can do all kinds of light and shade within this surface like this, you can't do it, normally with any other media. Alcohol inks a little bit, but you know what I mean? If I put alcohol inks right over the top of like this dark area right here, that sky is going to show right through transparent alcohol inks. That's why we kind of block things out with this. And then we can get all these forms in here. All that blue sky is showing right through this whole area, but just kind of knocking it out with a little bit of or a decent amount of Brilliance ink. And it wasn't an even application of it either. It was like all my inks were like all muddied blue too, because it was mixing with the inks on this. I wonder if we spray seal the photos before we add in the Brilliance inks. I wonder if that would seal it off to where we wouldn't get that mixing of the Brilliance ink on top of the photo, because the photo, this ink right here was if you just joined in like in the last, I don't know how long have we been on here? The last hour, I added Brilliance inks over the top of that bottom section right there. And as I was doing that, I noticed there was a lot of blue tones coming right off on this. And instead of it looking white, it looked blue because it was putting that ink. And it might have been that because I just printed this out, 15 minutes prior to this live stream. Maybe it would set in there if we let it dry overnight or something like that a little bit more. But I don't know, spray sealing the photograph and then applying that might be a really good option for us going forward with that. If we're going to be doing this type of home inkjet printer, types of applications. I think I'm going to. This scene right here too, I was thinking about doing printing out like moon scenes too. There's plenty of them on the like Flickr internet you can download and print out too. I think moonlit scenes would be really cool, but it's going to be all dark in here so that, if we apply that white pigment ink down at the base, we can stamp anything we want down here in terms of stamping in it, and it becomes like a usable backdrop for us to, or a canvas for us to, do whatever type of thing we want to do on there. Okay, so let's see. Here, I've been using this stamp all the time, but let's do it again. Here's our little flock image. Let's see. I'm going to do it, or the gulls, I should say. I'm going to put it pretty high up here. Okay. Like that. And let's start applying. Yeah, let's do it. Let's apply some of the white brilliance just to change our textural range a little bit. I hesitated there briefly because I was thinking, okay, I think I have enough of a coating of the brilliance ink and then the colored pencil on top of that, because I don't want to be applying some of this white brilliance and getting some of that blue, the background into this application. I want this just to be pure white. I think I can do it right over the top of these areas right in here with no problem. Sometimes I forget to mention this, but see this right here? If you dip this into this pad like this, it's going to kind of fray on you. So you kind of smash it down a little bit so you have a nice flat applicator, to apply your media with. And if it starts becoming frayed, just continue to smash it down. You got to do that a few times and build up a little bit of, in this case, pigment ink on the surface and push back slightly into the surface like that, okay? Now, this isn't a big slathering of this, so it's kind of dry, but if your pad is like super, super juicy, or if you just bought it, just be aware of how much ink you put on here. Maybe just tap it down once and then just really smash it in there like that, where you can get a very light application of this. See how powdery it is? It's like you can barely see it right there, right? With a few tappings. And I'm applying it with a very light touch too, okay? Now some of you might go like that, and it's like a big slathering of it and say, oh my God, it takes a lot of practice. It doesn't take a lot of practice. You just got to remove the ink off of your thing so that you're barely applying anything, okay? And that's just how I get that kind of misty look, by barely having any ink on here, okay? So I keep my pads kind of, I re-inked this, but I know I was going to be putting a big slathering of it in the background. But just in general, just use, like I was saying with the colored pencils, and applications of your media. Anytime you change media or something like that, just apply a real light application of it just to get a good feel of it. And it'll never be a precarious type of exercise. Okay, so on the base of the horse, I'm putting a little bit of this mist. See this tree trunk right here? I mean, it looks okay as is, but let's put a little bit of pigment ink. It's like applying a powder down there, and just getting that little bit of haze. Here, I'm going to mask off and do that too. I don't want to get in these cattails too much, which I kind of did. I mean, I can just kind of wipe it off, but I'm going to go like this and get a little bit of haze right in there. So, yeah, I don't know if you can see that right there. Like I said, I'm not taking it too light. Let's do something right here. Here's this little ridge right here. See that right there? I'm just playing around. I really like doing this type of thing. So this is, you know, those little details that I like adding in. If I see something, I don't plan it ahead. You know, I wasn't thinking about that like a minute ago, but see that little haze right there? So it just kind of oscillates it in here. You know, you put a little bit of light within your terrain like that, and it's kind of fun. Okay, now this is what I do too sometimes. I'll put a little bit of this pigment ink sometimes up in my cloud areas, because this cloud area does look like it's a kind of a different beast, you know, altogether from this area down here that's all hand stamped and everything like that. So I can put a little bit of this pigment ink in here sometimes like this, and I get a similar texture to it down there. I got to be careful about this one because it's really making it kind of bluish right there. Do you see that bluish? It's getting an off run right here. So I'll be careful about that. I'll try not to add too much of this, but I'm just giving the two areas, top and bottom, a little bit of a similar texture. And like I said, I won't go too much of this because it's putting my inks back into solution. See, like that darker blue like that, it's like a little bit a different blue right there. It's almost like cyan right there. I'll just stop right there. But it puts a little bit of texture here and there up there that's similar to the one that's going on right down in here. Let's see. I do have a quote stamp that I was contemplating using. Where did it go? Oh, yeah. Nature always wears the colors of the spirit. I don't know if I can stamp this in here and have it really show. Maybe. I haven't stamped, oh, maybe like right there. I haven't been doing this lately. But I love the look of these quotes in the scenes on these mirrored surfaces like this. Because it makes it look like it's kind of floating on the water to me. Maybe I'll center it. Let me see right here. Let me try to envision it. All right, if I don't like it, I'm just going to wipe it off. Because I'm going to stamp it out in Brilliance White. Oh, here we go. If you haven't seen me talk about these inks before, this one's the one that I use with my cotton ball because it gets all linty, you know, with the cotton. And this is the one, my Brilliance White, that I use for my impressions if I'm going to be stamping something out in white. I use the same pad, you know, the same one for, I don't know, like a year or two or something like that. But then I'd be stamping out something like a word stamp. You know, I'm stamping out and you know, it'd be kind of, you know, furry. You know, there might be a piece of lint on it, so I don't know, the word forms didn't look really great. All right, where'd my piece of scratch paper go? Need a piece of scratch black here. Okay, I was just checking to see if there was like a spot on my pad that's inked up a little bit more. I do try to run it across like this and not just ink it up in one spot, because one spot might be kind of wetter than the other. So when it comes to stamping word, you know, quotes or word stamps, you want that, you know, to be a fairly equal, how did I get that? A uniform application. I got something on there. It's like a piece of, maybe this pad right here got a piece of fur. No, okay, I don't know what that was. All right. All right, now this is a little bit tricky. I haven't done this in a long time. Stamping like a Brilliance thick pigment ink on here. These impressions were StazOn, okay? But this is a thick style of pigment ink, stamping it into a non-porous like surface like this. So when I stamp this out, sometimes I do it on a practice thing first. Because sometimes when you go like this, it's easy to kind of skew it a little bit because that thick ink on there and you're making and pressing it into there, it's easy to, wobble it a little bit. So I'm going to try not to do that. It moved on me a little bit. Hopefully it didn't move too much. It's like, stamping something on glass, but with a thick, slippery ink. It moved a little bit, but it's not too bad where I'm going to have to do it again. Like I said, if that didn't come out, I just wipe it right off. Okay. All right. So that's the way this looks like this. And see that little quote stamp down there? I don't know if it looks good or not, but I like those word stamps in context like that. See, like that. I guess if people see it too. It's like when people are opening this up, it has that little quote like that, and then you're opening it up like that, and then it's like an explosion of color or something of that sort. See, like that. And that's the way people would look at it. So you go like that, and see it like so. Anyways, I think that is it. Now, like I said, when this dries, and it will dry, okay, it'll air dry. You don't have to heat set it. Be careful now about, you might want to spray seal this first before you adhere it to this, because if this is dry and then you put some, whatever your adhesion method you use, if you run in a tape runner across here and you run it like this, you're not going to be holding it. It's going to be on, a flat piece, and you press into it like that. You might be pressing off that white brilliance ink onto this paper by running, pressing into it like that. So the easiest thing is just, take that out of consideration by hitting this with a spray sealant on this outside. Now, if you have the StazOn white, pigment ink, you maybe can use that instead. So that's going to be adhered and you wouldn't have to worry about that. But I use the Brilliance white. So, just take that into consideration there. But there we have it. A large format piece right here. The big question for me was home inkjet printer inks with the Brilliance ink application onto it, and how that would take not only in the impressions on there, making the impression, is it, transferring, in this case, the snowy bank onto that Brilliance ink, or when I make that impression on here on this type of, home inkjet printer paper and ink, would I be lifting off, that Brilliance ink that's been applied on there? So it worked out okay, It's not a super black impression with the snowy bank, although, no, okay. I was going to say, you can see right here where this tree trunk right here goes from light to dark like that. And see, this is lighter right here, but the tree, branches up down. It's because I'm stamping those trees into the Brilliance ink right down here. So that ink didn't transfer as much, okay? Some of that ink came off, but it really stuck to the emulsion of just the bare, well, I guess it's not bare photo paper, but it's the inkjet inks on there, without the thing. And then, when you start applying the colored pencil on top of that Brilliance white ink, what I'm looking for is, as you go in with this hard, sharp medium like this. I mean, these are soft colored pencils, but it's relatively sharp, hard in terms of everything else that we were typically applying media with, sponge applicators and, and that type of thing, cotton balls. I just want to see if this is going to be applying onto here as opposed to scraping off the Brilliance ink, and it worked just fine. So, like I said, a lot of us have a lot of that photo paper. If you just joined in, I just Had this. This is like a brand new pack. We haven't even used anything out of here, but these are just one of those packs that, you know, I don't know. We either bought or it came with a inkjet printer 15 years ago when everyone was buying, you know, inkjet printers to go along with their new digital cameras and whatnot. But man, we have so much of that. I have 11 by 17. And I think it's 10, 12 by 18. It's like tabloid full bleed size printer paper. Tons of the 4 by 6s, glossy and matte. Oh my God. But if we can use that, you know, in stamping for our scenes, it's going to be a really great resource, you know, to have like that. And I think it's really dynamic too. You can have whatever types of prints you want in the background. It doesn't have to be skies, you know, or clouds. You know, you can have a sunset, nighttime types of things like that. And just whatever type of imagery you want to have stand out, you just block it off with some of that white brilliance ink. And you can do it, you know, just about whatever you want on top of it. That's not going to lift the brilliance ink. So I'm not going to do things like, I don't think like alcohol inks, coloring or something like that, or dye-based inks on there. You might be able to do something with, I don't know, with some other media though. I'm not sure. Pastels maybe, or, you know, something like that might work. Glad you like it, Vintage Scrap Girl. We'll do something with Lake Tahoe. We'll do it like Tahoe scene in a reflection card sometime. We were talking about Lake Tahoe the other day. Hello, Rachel Otter Eyes. Good to see ya. Hello, Beverly. Fun stuff, Mary, huh? A lot of different choices out there. What we need is a one of those like light pillar looking holographic papers that's printable. That would be my my wish. You know, there's been some really dramatic. I don't know if I have a piece right here. Yeah. Like this is a vinyl. You know, I mean a holographic cardstock. I wish there was something like this in a printable vinyl, right? That we can just apply that, you know, that brilliance ink on the base there, you know, stuff like this, you know. But this type of paper is more like this one down here. You know, you can't be doing colored pencil work over the top of it. It would just scratch right off. So anyway, all right. So anyways, hope everyone has oh yeah, it's Mother's Day weekend again, huh? Hope everyone has a great Mother's Day weekend. If you're a mother, grandmother, whatever. I always say if you've mothered, you know, if you got an animal, whatever, you know, mother your crafting supplies, whatever, you know. Hope you have a great Sunday. It's Mother's Day in different times of the year, though, in other countries, but whatever, U.S. and Canada, right? But anyways, hope you have a great rest of weekend. And, you know, I hope you like this scene here. And I really hope that you kind of dip into this kind of dynamic here with the with silver cardstocks and whatnot. And just whatever you want to do up here. I think this thing really makes for a really fun, dynamic type of setting right here. You know, and someone opening this type of thing up like that. Think about how exciting that would be, you know, in terms of at least the first one that we received. But, you know, you can do all kinds of different things with it. So it's like, you know, opening up, I don't know. It's always fun to open up a new card, but it's usually like the reveal is coming out of the envelope, right? But this would be like coming out of the envelope. And it's like opening up this other thing, you know, it's like, you know, some other, you know, kind of other dynamic reveal too. So it's always that first kind of impression type of thing that I'm thinking about when I'm sending these things to people, that I think is a kind of a fun notion. So it's just kind of fun to think about, you know, in terms of something, you know, when, you know, you can't wait to hear what they, you know, they thought about it or something like that with a general card too, with any card, but with these ones too, it's like that, you know, I want to know what they thought about that whole thing. So, fun stuff. And let's see, with the pens you use for the small dots on the reflection, a smaller tip. I used both on this one, Mary. I did the larger 3mm, but then I also incorporated the extra fine tips. So let me see if you can see that right here. So is that right there? So these were, these were fairly large. Okay, so oh, you know what I did? I already forgot. I added most of these ones here in the foreground right here were the larger ones, Hey, not this one, but the white one, okay? And then I added the smaller ones back here. So when it goes like this, we have these larger kind of, flower petals in the foreground right here, but the smaller ones in the background like that. So I don't know. I was just playing around with it. You know what I mean? I don't know how big of a difference that really makes like that. But, if you have the pens, you can, why not? Just one of those little fine, whatever detail types of things. I don't know if anyone would notice that, if you gave them if you give this card to someone, they're not going to notice it. But you know what I mean? It's one of those things that you just add in there, for ourselves as, as whatever creators of these things. It's like when I'm doing like star, patterns, not in this scene, but I'm just, if I'm doing a nighttime type of scene and I'm adding stars into the sky, if I know kind of the way a certain constellation might look, whatever, Cassiopeia, the Big Dipper, you know what I mean? That type of thing. Orion. I don't know too many of them. But I put those little dots in that little, thing up there in the sky, or if I'm doing crystals or something like that, I don't know, put your initials, if you're doing some stars, you know what I mean? Candy's going to put a big, KM, in that star pattern. Maybe it's not really obvious, but it's there. You know what I mean? So those are the types of little fun things that you can do on these, in your scenes. It'd be kind of fun, if you put your initials up there in the patterning, maybe with the pink colors, you know what I mean, or something like that. You have your initial up there, so somewhere hidden in there. You know what I mean? Have some fun like that. Little types of things like that. Maybe you do that. You hide your something in every card that you send out. So when you send it out to someone, say, hey, see if you can find whatever in there, And so it kind of adds this additional contextual layer of something that, that makes it a little bit more interactive with the recipients of your card. Or, like I said, you just do it for yourself too, and it's really fun like that. So, yeah. Yeah. Those are the paint pens too, like that. So I really make use of my paint pens these days, and all the different colors of them. I don't take those things for granted like that. Coming from I don't know, just one white gel pen for so many years or something like that. So yeah, I like the quote here. The quote kind of stood out a little bit, but I think I like it in context like that. I stamped that quote down there. I might add like a few more dots around it or something like that to make it look like it's not just a kind of afterthought, but you have like little floating things around it or something like that. That really kind of sets it in there purposefully as a compositional element that you've worked other things around too. So yeah. Yeah, I like the find idea. Maybe we all start doing that. I don't know. Is Linda M still, Linda B, sorry. Is Linda B still here? We're going to do, on our challenges, we'll have a hide our initials on the Facebook group. If anyone's on Facebook, join in the Facebook group. We have a, Linda, has like new challenges for every month or something like that, and that's fun stuff. We'll have the hidden you know, type of thing. Not like a find Waldo, but little hidden thing in our scenes like that. Thanks everyone for joining in again, and like I said, again, hope you have a great weekend. I don't know, I might jump on at some point in time. I think my son's working tomorrow, and then, I don't know, for Mother's Day, he wants to go to this trampoline park gym, you know, that my wife would take him to. I was like, what, you know, so for like Mother's Day, that's your gift to her. She gets to take you to the trampoline gym and, you know, spend all day with you there. That's your gift to her, huh? So I might jump on again for another live. These photo stamping reflection cards are just too much fun. So yeah. And I wanted, like I said, I wanted to do with this scene right here with that light beam right here. I was thinking about that fire tower right here with a bunch of like just some pine trees, you know, kind of growing around like a, I don't know, like a alpine little pond here. I was going to put some granite rocks right here with some trees. I think that scene would be really fast because we're talking about like minimal color too. You know, it's just making the impressions basically. So laying the foundation though with the Brilliance ink, that would be the thing that just, you know, takes a few minutes to do. So anyways, have a great one, everyone. Thanks so much for joining in, and hope you like the card. Reflections and Horizon cards. Give them a try, and I think you'll really be having some fun seeing these develop there. So yeah. All right.